English by the Nature Method by Arthur M. Jensen. Brought to you by Ayan Academy.
Chapter 34 The Parks of London. At lunch the next day, they discussed the buildings they had seen in London. We have now got an impression of the buildings of London, but we should also like to see its many fine and big parks, said Wood. We have often read about them in the newspapers, and sometimes we have seen pictures of them too. But a picture does not give a real impression of them, I think. One must see them in reality to get the right impression. Yes, answered Mr. Miller. That would be a good idea for today's trip. But you speak of the parks of London as if you could see them all in a day. You really can see more than one, or two at the most, in one day. I propose that we go to Regent's Park first. From there we can go through Baker Street and Oxford Street to Hyde Park, and while we are on our way, we might stop and have some tea somewhere in Oxford Street. They did as Mr. Miller proposed and took a bus to Regent's Park. In this park are the well-known zoological gardens of London. They went in to look at the animals. Mr. Miller told the young men that Londoners call the zoological gardens the zoo for short. They stood for a long time watching the monkeys playing with each other. "They are so funny," said Brown, "that I could watch them for hours." Suddenly, one of the monkeys put out his hand and took an umbrella from a little girl who was standing nearby. The umbrella was not open, but a few minutes later, the monkey had got it opened. It was so funny to see the monkey running about with the umbrella that all the people who watched it had to laugh, except the little girl. They also went to see the snakes, which interested Wood very much, and after having seen the other animals, they left Regent's Park and went to a restaurant in Oxford Street for tea. "What a big place this is," the young men said as they entered the restaurant. "It is the largest we have ever seen." "What is the name of it?" "The Marble Arch Corner House," Mr. Miller answered. "Yes, it is a long name," he said, laughing at the look of surprise on the young men's faces. "I'll explain it to you while we are having our tea." When the tea had been served, he explained, "This is one of the many restaurants and tea rooms which the big firm of Lyons has all over England. In London alone there are hundreds of them, and each one is called a Lyons. The very first big one was in a corner house, that is, a house built where two streets cross each other. The restaurant was therefore called a corner house, and now the 4 or 5 biggest Lyons restaurants are called corner houses, even if they are not situated at corners. You will be surprised, perhaps, to hear that 1 or 2 of the corner houses never close, but have rooms that are open day and night. Now you know what a corner house is. This one is called the Marble Arch Corner House because it is only 1 or 2 minutes from the Marble Arch, a big arch built of marble, situated just outside the entrance to Hyde Park. Marble is a very expensive and beautiful stone, which is often shining and white. Marble Arch was built for King George IV as an entrance to Buckingham Palace, but after it had been built, they found that it was too narrow for the king's carriage to pass through it. In 1851, it was moved from Buckingham Palace to this corner of Hyde Park. It cost £80,000 to build. Now it just stands there and nobody uses it. It is even closed so that you can get through it, but you have to go around it. But the Londoners like it, and tourists go to see it. There is always much traffic round Marble Arch, and at night, when the lights are on, it is beautiful to look at. There are always people standing round it, selling different things. newspapers, fruit, chocolate, etc. It has really become part of London, a part which the Londoners like very much. But if you have finished your tea, we might walk around it before entering the park, so that you may see it from all sides. I will pay the bill while you finish your bread and butter, Wood. You seem to eat a lot, the teacher said, laughing, because you are always the last of us to finish. They crossed Oxford Street and entered the park, and just inside they found a lot of people standing around a speaker who had got up on a soapbox to speak. They listened to him and tried to understand what he was saying, but could hear very little. "This is a thing which you will find in many places in England," said Mr. Miller. "If a man wants to speak about something, he can bring a box to stand on and say what he likes. Nobody will stop him, and there will always be someone out walking who stops on his way to listen to his talk or laugh at him." On their way through the park they came to a serpentine, a long lake which looks like a snake or a serpent, and in which people may bathe. In the evenings in summer, Mr. Miller told them, there are bands or orchestras playing in the park, and there are always many people who come to listen to them. "But we cannot stop tonight. Perhaps we can come back this way some other evening and hear one of the bands play. Look," he said suddenly and stopped them. "Now I will show you something funny, which I think will surprise you." They looked and saw a flock of sheep. "Is this really a flock of sheep in the center of London?" they shouted in surprise. "Yes, sheep," their teacher replied. "Real sheep. They move about the park to eat the grass so that it does not get too long." They finished their walk through the park at Hyde Park Corner, and Mr. Miller told them that it is the place which has the most traffic in the whole world. It was not difficult for them to understand this, because it was several minutes before they were able to cross to the other side of the street.